Okay, well, for those of you who are probably going to wonder because of the lack of my beautiful face on the screen, um, my laptop, my actual laptop, is currently in the shop getting repaired. Involves a nasty incident involving a 1-year-old and the floor. So, yeah, don't ask. At any rate, but I'm still going to be putting out a couple of videos because it's been too long. I can only upload other people's content for so long before I feel cheap. So I figured I had to put something out. And today, it's been bugging me, but today finally gave me motivation. Ladies and gentlemen, announced today by Sony, coming to the PlayStation Network store on May 1st of this year. One of the greatest games of all time. One of the greatest RPGs of all time. In my opinion, the greatest RPG of all time. I have yet to play a single one that comes anywhere near close to this game. I mean, it's better that you take every Final Fantasy game there is, roll them all up into one that's still better. Alright, pick out the ones you hate even. It's still better. It's a very unique RPG. I haven't seen one like it before that. I haven't seen one like it since. Almost had a sequel, but for various reasons it wound up not happening. A lot of people are hoping that it gets an HD remake, which frankly I could understand this getting remade before I could understand any of the Final Fantasy games getting remade. And a lot of people want to see an HD remake and a sequel. You know, get the sequel revived, get it out on the newer system, see what we can do now with the... and that game, ladies and gentlemen, is... Yep, Legend of Dragoon. This game, I swear to God, see, when I first got the game, I honestly didn't know if it was going to be any good. I had never heard of it. I was new to the PlayStation generation. I had been an N64 gamer. I actually got my PlayStation a little while after. I got my a little while after the PS2 came out and the price dropped. And you know, I mean, I was poor. I was poor as heck. I mean, I'm poor now still, but back then it was even worse. I mean, I had absolutely no means of getting half this stuff. Even now I technically don't. I still wind up behind. But thankfully after the PS2 I managed to catch up and sort of keep up. But honestly, the thing is, though, what it really boiled down to is I needed games for my PS1. I only had 3 games and a demo disc. So I was looking to expand my library. And I remembered that I had, like, Final Fantasy IX. I borrowed that from a friend. And it was insanely fun. It still is my favorite Final Fantasy game. But I saw this game, and I noticed that it was kind of similar. I mean, it was a JRPG. I figure, okay. I'll buy this and I'll give it a shot. It was only $20 at the time at Walmart. Bought it, brought it home, played it. I pulled an all-nighter. Seriously. I had school the next day and I still pulled an all-nighter. I could not put that thing down. It was awesome. It just really grabbed a hold of you. People have said that it starts out slow, and it sort of does in a way. I actually think that pacing, though, helps it in the long run, because it starts out slow and makes certain you kind of get an idea of what's going on, who these characters are, what their motivations are. They don't do what like a lot of people would do and just, you know, kind of push forward and then fill in the blanks as you go along. It took the time to establish itself before it moved forward. It took the time to establish what was going on. What was going on in this kingdom, what was going on with these characters, what their motivations were. It was... From a storytelling perspective, it was amazing. From an art perspective, it is amazing. I mean, they had over 100 people working on just the design of this game. I mean, they poured all kinds of time into it. Had a beautiful score. They actually released a full soundtrack. It was some amazing music. It was one of the first RPGs I'd ever played where they actually dubbed it. In that, during the normal scenes, no, it's still text. But during the cutscenes, they actually dubbed it. Now, it did sometimes result in some somewhat cheesy voice acting in certain points, but you have to realize that some of the voice acting actually has to take place off screen. And the problem with animation is that when you're animating something, voice actors always said they have to try to act with their voice, you know, because they have no facial features or expressions to go on, anything like that. Well, in this case, that was true too, except they had no except, I mean, they were dubbing something that had already been animated, but in some cases, they didn't even have that. There was nothing on the screen to back up what they were trying to do. I mean, it was supposed to be an off-camera shot, and they had to record, try to convey the emotion this character's feeling, even though they're off-screen. And so sometimes they could sound a little over the top in terms of being angry or something, but it doesn't really come across that way when you actually sit there and you experience it. It's not until you kind of detach yourself from it that you kind of notice. So to be fair, the dubbing could be a little, wonky at times, but then again, given what they're having to work with and the fact that, they were telling one of these old legends, and all the voice acting takes place completely off screen. You never see their faces throughout the whole thing, and so they are having to try to project what these people are feeling with their voices, and in that respect, it's actually good because they do manage to get across what they're feeling. It's not too cheesy when it's happening, but again, it's one of those things where when you remove yourself from it, you can laugh at it later. But when you're right in there, it's good, and it was a good effort. It really was. And I mean, this game though, it was just amazing. It didn't, beat around the bush when it came to character death or character replacements or anything like that. It was one of the first RPGs I'd ever seen where you had to actually you had to utilize strategy, you had to utilize timing even to do a full combo. It's not one of those cases where it's just point and click like a lot of RPGs are. You actually selected your target, and then there was this dial that would show up, and you pushed the button to start it, and every time it swung back around to the top, you had to keep pressing X, and every time you did, it would chain on another hit onto the combo. Until you could max it out, depending on what your preset was that you chose. Sometimes it'd be 8 strikes long, sometimes 7, sometimes 6. And it was awesome. And then there were the transformations, and oh man, I don't want to, for people who haven't played it, it's hard to describe this without giving too much away, but the Dragoon transformations were awesome. The first time you go through one, it's wow. There were some very interesting twists and turns along the way. You met some very, very interesting characters. You have the story of Dart, the main character, who's trying to avenge the murder of his family by this creature called the Black Monster, and then you find out some very interesting things about the Black Monster, an ancient race that used to rule over the land, so on and so forth. It's all very much deep. It intertwines very nicely. The gameplay, oh my god, the gameplay is just awesome. And yet, for some reason, it keeps getting billed as a ripoff of Final Fantasy VII, and no one will ever say how. I guess it's because Final Fantasy VII had just come out when this came out, or it was coming out around the same time, or just before. I don't know. But I honestly don't see anything in common, not in terms of characters, not in terms of story, not in terms of gameplay, nothing. But it got the short end of the stick in that regard from a lot of people. But it's very much its own game. I'm telling you, there's nothing else like it. And so yeah, it comes out on PSN on May 1st. And yes, that's here in the United States. I don't know if or when it comes out in Europe, or if it already has. I know it already is in Japan. So there's that. But if you guys want to play it, this is a golden opportunity to play one of the best games, and sadly most underrated games you will ever play in your entire life. And I mean that. And so yeah, I very strongly recommend that you guys go ahead and pick that game up and just enjoy it and spread the word. And it's one of those cases where it's just such an underappreciated little gem that I really wish that more people had played it than did. I really wish that some of the kids today would play it so that they could get an idea of what a real good RPG is, because one reason I think that RPGs are dying is because we kind of got inundated with even the average ones because they became popular here. So instead of importing only one every so often, they started importing all of them, even the mediocre ones, and they think that's why, it just got oversaturated. They were even bringing in like games that were like, way old over there and bringing them over here, and people got to play them and they might not like them. So anyway, so people are pretty disenchanted with RPGs, or at least JRPGs now, but this was a prime example of what they were like back in their heyday, what the good ones are like, and it's just an all-around amazing game. I know people who aren't even too terribly into RPGs that got into it, so yeah, if you ever get the opportunity to download this, please do. I really don't think you'll regret it. So anyways, that's it for this one, and we're going to be doing another one again real soon, so keep an eye out, okay? See you guys.